Why do these problems always happen? Chapter 28. A Miracle and Still a Maybe. 2 weeks after his exhilarating keynote address, Barack Obama's mentor, Dreams from My Father, A Story of Race and Inheritance, was republished. It rushed up the charts and snatched rave reviews in the final months of 2004. Toni Morrison, the Queen of American Letters and editor of Angela Davis's iconic memoir 3 decades earlier, deemed Dreams from My Father quite extraordinary. Obama had written the memoir in a rationally packed year of 1995 as he began in his political career in the Illinois state. In the book, he claimed to be an expert and excellent from being an extraordinary Negro, but racist Americans of all colors would in 2004 begin hailing Barack Obama with all his public intelligence, morality, speaking ability, and political success as such. The extraordinary Negro Mark had come a mighty long way from Wheatley to Barack Obama, who became the nation's only African American in the U.S. Senate in 2005. With Wheatley, racists despised the capable black mind, but with Obama, they were turning their backs on history so that they could see him as a symbol of a post-racial America, an excuse to say the ugliness is over. But it was a devastating natural and racial disaster. That summer would burst the bubble if a post-racial make-believe of anything forced a tense debate about racism. During the final days of August 2005, Hurricane Katrina took more than 1,800 lives, forced millions to migrate, flooded the beautiful Gulf Coast, and caused billions in property damage. Hurricane Katrina blew the colorblind roof off America, and on them all to see, if they dared to look, the dreadful progression of racism. For years, scientists and journalists have warned that if Louisiana took a different hit from a major hurricane, the leaves would fail in the region. A poor black community would be flooded and destroyed. No one did anything. And once it happened, the response from the Federal Emergency Management Agency was delayed. It was rumored that the Bush administration directed FEMA to delay its response in order to intensify the destructive reward for those who had benefited. Whether or not this is true, they were delayed, and people were drowning. It took 3 days to deploy rescue troops to the Gulf Coast region, more time than it took to get troops on the ground to call the 1992 Rodney King Rebellion, and then came the media. This time, spinning tales of looting and gruesome stories of children at Superdome, people being sheltered, having their throats cut. In the era of colorblind racism, no matter how gruesome the racial crime, no matter how much evidence was stacked against them, racists were standing before the judge and pleading not guilty. But how can many criminals actually confess when they don't have to? From civilians to standardized testers to simulationists have really confessed to racism. Enslavers and Jim Crow segregationists went to their graves claiming innocence. And just as many presidents before him, including Reagan, Lincoln, and Jefferson, George W. Bush would have likely do the same. On February 10th, 2007, Barack Obama stood in front of the old state capitol building in Springfield, Illinois, and formally announced his presidential candidacy. He stood in the same spot where Abraham Lincoln had delivered his historic House Divided speech in 1858. Obama burned with words of American unity, hope, and change. No one saw him coming. As a matter of fact, everyone said Hillary Clinton was the inevitable choice until Obama came through and snatched it from under her nose. By February 5th, 2008, Super Tuesday, or the Tuesday in the election season, where the greatest number of states hold primary elections, Americans have been swept up in the Obama Yes We Can crusade of hope and change, themes we embodied and spoke so equally in his speeches that people started to hunger for him. But in mid-February, his perspective and brilliant wife Michelle Obama told a Hill rally for the first time in my adult life. I am really proud of my country, and not because Barack had done well, but because I think people are hungry for change. Not all races need to pounce and call her unpatriotic. Try to tear the Obamas down and discredit them. Racist cultures became obsessed with Michelle Obama's body, her near 6-foot chiseled and curvy frame, simultaneously semi-masculine and feminine. They searched for problems in her black marriage and family, calling them extraordinary when they did not find any. Then they found a scapegoat in one of the black America's most revelized Republicans, the recently retired pastor of Chicago's large Trinity United Church of Christian Jeremiah Wright. He officed at the Obama's wedding and spoke honestly about his feelings for a country that worked overtime to kill him and his people. But the media used Wright's critiques of America to slander Obama. Obama tried to push it off, tried to downplay his relationship with Pastor Wright, but nothing was working. So instead, he delivered the speech of his life. It was called A More Perfect Union. It was a speech on race, and it teetered back and forth between painful assimilationist thought and bold anti-racism. And it worked. It pushed him on, past the barrage of obstacles to come, including the one filled by Donald Trump, that challenge whether or not Obama was an American. And on November 4th, 2008, a 64-year-old recently retired professor, Angelica Davis, cast a vote on a major political party for the first time in her life. She retired from academia but not from her very public activism of 4 decades. She was still traveling the country on her road in an abolitionist movement against prisons, and casting her vote for Democratic Barack Obama. Davis joined roughly 69.5 million Americans, but more than voting for the man, Davis voted for the grassroots of his organizers, those millions of people demanding change. When the network started announcing that Obama had been elected the 44th President of the United States, happiness exploded from coast to coast. It burst from the United States and spread across the anti-racist world. Davis was in the Dome of Oakland. People who she did not know come up and hugged her as she walked the streets. She saw people singing into the heavens, and she saw people dancing in the streets. And the people, Saul and all the others around the world who were celebrating were not enraptured from the election of an individual. They were enraptured by the pride of the victory for black people, by the success of millions of grassroots organizers. And because they showed all those disbelievers who said that electing a black president was impossible to be wrong, most of all, they were enraptured by the anti-racist potential of a black president. But, like my mother says, there's not much payout for potential, is there? President Obama was a symbol, yes, one of hope, one of progress, but also one of assimilationism. So much that he was used to explain racism in a way, used to absolve it. Obama fell in line with the likes of Lincoln, Du Bois, Washington, Douglas, and many others who had flashes, true moments of anti-racist thought, but they always seemed to assimilate under pressure. He rose to fame for calling out Bill Cosby for blaming black people, then dived headfirst into shortly thereafter, criticizing black people in the exact same ways. And just as the black leaders before him, the assimilationists didn't work. Segregationists climbed out of every hateful hole and under every racist rock. They hated him, worked tirelessly to destroy and discredit him, and used him as a way to demean black people, to ramp up racist absurdity and stereotypes, once again calling back to their favorite playlist, playing all the classic racist tunes: Black Savage, Black Dummy, Black Do Nothing, Black Beat, anything to smear President Obama and people away from in the media. Racist politicians and media personnel. These work to figure out ways to tamp down the ego that they assumed came from a black president, and came from being black in the time of a black president, and came with being black. People started to die. People continue to die. Children's lives ended at the hands of police officers and vigilantes who placed no value on black humanity. Police and vigilantes who walk free, but just like in other parts of America's history, anti-racists push forth from the margins to fight back, black or not. And Angelita Garcia, Patrice Codors, and Opal Torrenti founded hashtag Black Lives Matter as a direct response to racist backlash in the form of police brutality. From the into parts of these three black women, two of whom are queer. This declaration of love unliftedly signified that in order to truly be anti-racist, it must also oppose all the sexism, homophobia, colorism, ethnocentrism, nepotism, cultural prejudice, and class bias teeming on the block to harm so many black lives. Racism harms so many black lives. The anti-racist declaration of the era quickly leaped from social media onto shouting signs and shouting months of anti-racist protests across the country in 2014. These protesters rejected the racist declaration of 6 countries that Black Lives Don't Matter. Hashtag Black Lives Matter quickly transformed from an anti-racist love declaration into an anti-racist movement filled with young people operating in local BML groups across the nation, often led by young black women. Collectively, these activists in all areas of the world, pressing against discrimination in all forms, in all areas of society, and from vantage points, and in reaction to those who acted as if Black Lives Matter, the most anti-racist feminist bullied the mandate of America to say her name, to shine light on the woman who had been affected by the hands and feet of some. Perhaps they, the anti-racist daughters of Davis, should be held up as symbols of hope for taking potential and bringing it into power. More important, perhaps we should all do the same. And that's the end of the book.